Chapter 245. The attacking power is as high as 60, and the color of the 60th crystal stone has turned red. It has definitely reached the first limit of a clasping Yuan realm warrior. Indeed. Although this attacking power testing column is rare and extremely hard to make, some of the top rank 7 martial institutions still have them. The martial city has 3 of them as well. Normally, being able to light up 60 crystal stones is already the maximum value. However, some of the clasping Yuan realm warriors have trained extremely powerful martial arts and martial skills, which means that they have special ways to increase their attacking power. Therefore, when they were making the testing column, they had purposely done something on the last crystal stone of every 2 rows, allowing it to shine with 3 colors. The first color is red, which means that the warrior's attacking power has already surpassed most of the peak-level late clasping Yuan realm warriors, and would be able to compete with the rank 6 tyrant beasts. The second color is purple, which means that the warrior would be able to kill the rank 6 tyrant beasts without too much difficulty. The third color is black. I heard that in the whole South Rudra region, there are less than 10 clasping Yuan realm warriors who could make the 60th crystal stone shine black, which means that they would be able to kill the rank 6 tyrant beasts within seconds. They are the most powerful warriors below the astral reaching realm. Qian Yun's attacking power has reached the level of red, so he would definitely be in the top 10. There should not be too many freaks among the young generation. Yeah, I think so too. The powerful attacking power is too much of an advantage. As long as one gets hit once, the defense would be broken immediately. All of the clasping Yuan realm warriors were discussing, looking at Qian Yun with admiration in their eyes. Qian Yun had a smile on the corner of his mouth as he crossed his arms in front of his chest. That powerful? I can also reach 60 stones. A young warrior did not believe it. He walked out from the crowd, wanting to get a better result than Qian Yun. A lot of people had recognized him as one of the powerful warriors in the last hidden dragon rank, and he was ranked quite high. Chin. His weapon was a blade. The blade light flashed as he threw a heavy attack onto the crystal stone. The crystal stones lit up row after row. When it reached the 59th stone, it stopped. He was still 1 stone away from 60, not to mention turning the 60th stone red. Impossible. One more time. Chin. This time, it was not as good as the last time. It was 58 stones. Obviously, he had lost his focus, and his spirit had not been pushed to its limit. 59 is not bad. Anyone who can light up 60 of them is qualified to compete for the top 10 of the hidden dragon rank. No one laughed at him. If it were them, they might not even be able to light up 55 of them. Luo Hanshan said, "Yi Chen, why don't you try?" Yi Chen smiled. His hands were indeed itching. Someone else is up. I wonder how many stars will light up. Probably more than 55. His aura is quite strong. He is not a weakling among the younger generation. Who in the younger generation is a weakling? However, there should be 55 of them. While everyone was talking, Yi Chen walked towards the testing pillars step by step. He did not take out his star scar sword, as he wanted to see how much attacking power he would have without using his sword. Qian Yun had an impression of Yi Chen. When he was climbing the dragon door, his speed was very fast. He should be able to rank in the top 30 or 20. Unfortunately, the attacking power test was different from climbing the dragon door. What was needed was the most powerful attacking power. A bright yellow mountain shadow appeared on Yi Chen's right fist. The shadow was extremely condensed, and eventually shrunk into a ball, shining with bits of gold light. It stuck closely to Yi Chen's fist. It was indeed the 3rd movement of the 5 mountain godly fist art, the 5 mountain 1 art. Dong! A muffled thunder-like sound was heard. The crystal board had taken such a huge attacking power, but it was not damaged at all. The crystal stones on it lit up row after row, eventually reaching the 60th stone. However, it did not turn red, which was a lot weaker than the head disciple of the Sunset Martial School, Qian Yun. 60 stones. Am I seeing it right? Another one of the young warriors who could reach the top 10. Although it is slightly weaker than Qian Yun, it should not be that bad. I wonder what kind of realm Xikong Sheng and the rest of them would reach. Everyone was very surprised. It was not easy to light up 60 stones. Even a lot of peak-level late-clasping Yuan realm warriors did not have this kind of attacking power. Yi Chen was also very satisfied. He knew that with only the third movement of the 5 mountain godly fist art, he would not be able to hit 60 stones. But with his almost 50,000 pounds of physical strength, it was not surprising that he could do it. In other words, even if he did not use his sword, he would still be one of the top warriors among the peak-level late-clasping Yuan realm warriors. Not bad. He is barely qualified to be my opponent. I wonder what his real attacking power is like. Qian Yun was not interested in watching anymore, so he was about to leave. Qian Yun's raised foot was put back down again. His eyes landed on Yi Chen's left hand. No one knew when, but Yi Chen had already taken out his Star Scar sword. He pulled it out, raised it up with one hand, and threw a heavy sword attack onto the crystal board. This sword attack was the combined sword movement, sky-shattering clouds. However, he did not use his sword intent, since the 70% sword intent was one of his ace attacks. There was no need to show it off. The sword pressure was too intense, and there seemed to be lightning flashing through the air. The next second, the 6 rows of crystal stones lit up almost at the same time. Then, the 60th crystal stone shone intensely and turned into a red color. The color was even darker than the one Qian Yun had hit out, almost purple. So he is using a sword. He has actually reached the first limit of a clasping Yuan realm warrior. He is not far from purple. All of the warriors who were watching were shocked. Alright, let's go. Yi Chen did not want to continue. He put away his Star Scar sword and said to Luo Hanshan. Luo Hanshan forced a smile and said, "You have really shocked me. Besides those extremely powerful martial geniuses, almost no one under the astral reaching realm would be able to beat you." The two walked further and further away. Touching his chin, Qian Yun seemed to be thinking about something. That time, he had almost used 90% of his attacking power. The reason why he did not use 100% of his power was because he did not want the 60th crystal stone to turn purple. He thought that no one here would be able to break this record, but he did not expect it to be broken so soon. Interesting. I hope we can meet in the competition. Then, I will use all of my power to beat you. Glancing at Yi Chen's back, Qian Yun turned around and left. There were a lot of crossroads in the Hidden Dragon ancient city, and there were also a lot of attacking power testing pillars. A lot of people who had never seen it before had gone up to test one by one, including those young warriors who were full of confidence. Scary. The Demon Eyes Mo Yen is indeed worthy of being ranked 8th in the last Hidden Dragon rank. The 60th crystal stone has turned purple. Murong Qingcheng is not bad either. It is also purple. Just as I expected, she did not use all of her power in the last competition. The two are both disciples of the Sky Demon Martial School. This time, the Sky Demon Martial School is going to be the winner. Hearing the discussions, Mo Yen did not look proud at all. The Sky Demon Martial School also had some attacking power testing pillars, and he had already tested them, so he was very confident. However, Murong Qingcheng's attacking power had surprised him a lot. It seemed like she had indeed had some great experiences outside. Not only had she trained her Sky Demon Great Art to its 10th level, but her Sky Demon palm print had also improved drastically. She was one of his powerful enemies. Murong Qingcheng still had her face covered with a light cloth, and no one could see her real face. At the other crossroads, gasps could be heard one after another. The 60th crystal stone has turned purple. The head disciple of the Ice Extreme Martial School, Bing Ling, lives up to her reputation. That fist art must be the top-rank Earth Realm martial skill, the ice-breaking fist, right? I have just come from that crossroad. The head disciple of the Heartless Martial School, Li Daoxian, also got a purple result. Besides that, the Demon Eyes Mo Yen and Murong Qingqing also got the same result. So powerful. I guess the top 10 of this year's Hidden Dragon rank will be these people. The young generation, they are all top warriors. Yeah. I wonder what the others' results are like. Tuabaku got purple. The Fire Spirit Prince, Yan Chihua's result is out. It is black, and it was a casual attack from him. No way. A casual attack from him could reach the third limit of a clasping Yuan realm warrior. He is almost at the astral reaching realm. Lin Yun's casual attack is also black. Too black. Yan Qihua is indeed the Fire Spirit Prince. Lin Yun has also caught up. In the last Hidden Dragon rank competition, he was ranked 5th. This time, he will definitely make it to the top 3. Oh right, does anyone know about Xikong Sheng's result? I did not see him. The king-level bloodline is not something to be underestimated. Black is for sure. Let's go look for him. On a crossroad close to the center area, all of the Floating Mountain Martial School's disciples who had passed through the 3 challenges had finished their tests, which had shocked all of the warriors watching. Right then, one of the disciples suggested to Xikong Sheng, head disciple, I think those people have all finished their tests. Why don't you show some of your power as well, in case everyone thinks that they can take your throne away? Yeah. Head disciple, show some of your power. Otherwise, they might think that you are scared of them. Xikong Sheng sneered. Besides Yan Qihua and that weird Lin Yun, he did not really care about the others. Even these 2 were only qualified for him to show some of his power. They did not have the power to compete with him. That's good too. I will show them a despairing result. Flicking his sleeves, Xikong Sheng walked towards the test column. All of a sudden, the place became dead silent. Everyone was watching. They wanted to see how powerful Xikong Sheng, who was the champion of the last Hidden Dragon rank and the descendant of the Tsang King, was. After a while, they would be able to tell from his attacking power. Pap! No one could see how Xikong Sheng had attacked. They could only vaguely see a palm-shaped pattern flash in the air before disappearing. Everyone's attention was focused on the crystal stone. 1 row, 2 rows, 6 rows, 7 rows. 7 rows. The crystal stones had lit up to the 7th row. Although there was only 61 in total, it was the attacking power of an astral reaching realm warrior. It seemed like Xikong Sheng had not even used all of his power. As for how much power he had used, no one knew. Only Xikong Sheng himself knew. Regardless, the result of 61 crystal stones was enough to shock the whole South Rudra region. It meant that Xikong Sheng had the power to compete with early astral reaching realm warriors. Like a plague, the news of Xikong Sheng hitting 61 crystal stones spread out like wildfire. 1 to 1, 10 to 10. Within half a day, most of the warriors in the Hidden Dragon Ancient City had heard about it. A lot of powerful young warriors had heard the news and shook their heads with a forced smile. They had not planned to challenge Xikong Sheng in the first place, and now that they had heard about it, they decided not to go even more. Chapter 246. 61 stones, indeed impressive. Inside the yard, Yi Chen, Su Jing, Zhu Mei, and Lu Hanshan were all there, surrounded by 7 or 8 core disciples who hadn't reached the clasping Yuan realm yet. They were here to watch the competition with the leaders of the school. When they heard the news, they immediately came to tell Yi Chen and the other 2. Zhu Mei shook her head and forced a smile. 61 stones is a result only early astral reaching realm warriors can achieve. I only got 48 stones, and Su Jing got 60 stones. Yi Chen, what about you? Lu Hanshan answered for Yi Chen. Yi Chen got 60 stones when he didn't use his sword, and the last stone he got was red, almost purple. Brother Yi is so powerful. Hearing him, all the core disciples who came to watch the competition were shocked. Although Yi Chen was not as powerful as Xikong Sheng and the others, the Sky Cloud Martial School was a rank 9 institution, which was not as powerful as a rank 6 institution. For a genius like Yi Chen to appear, it was already a miracle, and it was even more exciting. What could be more exciting than breaking the rules? In fact, everyone had the ambition to challenge the authority. Sister Su is also very powerful. She is only at the early clasping Yuan realm, and she already got 60 stones. If she reaches the mid-clasping Yuan realm, how powerful would she be? All of a sudden, all the core disciples who came to watch the competition were extremely happy. The more powerful their brother and sister were, the more glorious they would feel when they walked out. Plus, they had also heard something about luck. The higher the rank, the more luck the individual and the martial institution would have. In the future, with the luck of their brother and sister and the martial institution, their training would be even smoother, and they might even be able to reach a realm that they couldn't even imagine. Hearing everyone's words, Yi Chen thought to himself, this year's competition level is super high, and the popular candidates for the top 10 have even reached the limit of clasping Yuan realm warriors. They are the top of the top. Fortunately, I have prepared a lot of ace attacks. Otherwise, I might not be able to make it. Let's see who is the most powerful warrior below the astral reaching realm. No matter if it was the Yi Chen from his previous life as a university student, or the Yi Chen now as a sword artist, he was still a young man with the desire to fight inside him. Right now, he felt like he had been ignited, and his spirit and chi kept on increasing, surpassing his previous level. Inside a massive building in the center of the Hidden Dragon ancient city, a lot of leaders from different martial institutions had gathered. The leaders of the top 7 rank 6 martial institutions were the only 7 Sea of Souls realm warriors there. Everyone, the reason why I have gathered you here is about the judges. The competitions of the Hidden Dragon rank are not simple, and using people from any martial institutions as the judges would not be enough to convince the crowd. Therefore, just like before, the judges will be chosen from the astral reaching realm warriors who do not belong to any martial institutions. Do you have any objections? The leader of the Floating Mountain Martial School stood in the middle of the 7 people. His voice was not loud, but it had covered the entire building. I have no objections. Me neither. No one objected. The leader of the Sky Demon sect took the lead and said, the previous chief judge, Luo Jiacheng, was fair and impartial. He should be the chief judge this time. Senior Luo. He is indeed an impartial man, I agree. That would be for the best. Luo Jiacheng was an elder in his 70s. He chuckled as he walked out, holding his fists together as he said, thank you, everyone, for thinking so highly of me. Since Leader Mo has recommended me, I will reluctantly accept it. Of course, don't worry, everyone. Even if it is a disciple of the Sky Demon Martial School, a loss is a loss. I will not be grateful just because Leader Mo recommended me. The leader chuckled. The competitions of the Hidden Dragon rank were sacred and solemn. If someone tried to cover up for a disciple of the Sky Demon Martial School, he would be the first one to disagree. Otherwise, he would not have recommended him to be the chief judge. There were 1 chief judge and 12 judges in the competitions of the Hidden Dragon rank. Now that the chief judge had been selected, it was time to choose the 12 judges. There were 3 requirements to be a judge: 1 must be fair, 2 must have a high cultivation, and 3 must have good eyesight. The chief judge, Luo Jiacheng, had been a judge for many times, and he was a late astral reaching realm warrior himself. Adding his impartial attitude, it was quite expected for him to be the chief judge. Although the other judges did not need to be as powerful as Luo Jiacheng, they could not be too weak either. Otherwise, if they became a joke, no one would be able to look good, especially the leaders of the 7 rank 6 martial institutions. Under everyone's expectation, 2 long days had passed, and it was already the morning of the 3rd day. The sky had just begun to brighten, and the clamor had already swept through the entire Hidden Dragon ancient city. Looking from the sky, one could observe that numerous torrents of people were converging towards the center of the ancient city. They were like numerous complicated black rivers that flowed endlessly. Inside the yard, all of the people from the Sky Cloud Martial School were there. Today is still the elimination competition. Let's take it slow and steady. If you are confident, try not to expose your real power too early. Luo Xinglie reminded the 3 of them. Yes. Yi Chen and the other 2 nodded. Alright, let's not talk anymore. Let's go. The same reminder was happening in the other martial institutions as well. Although there were only 72 people in each Hidden Dragon rank competition, everyone wanted to go further. After all, in this kind of intense battle, the chance of making a breakthrough was very high. It was not like there had never been cases of people making a comeback before. The central area of the ancient city was a vast flat land. Around the flat land were densely packed spectator stands, extending far into the distance. The whole place looked like an iron pot. The bottom of the pot was flat land, and the walls of the iron pot were the spectator stands. Sitting in the spectator stands, one could see the scene on the flat land by lowering their head. The competition is finally starting. Let's get a good spot first. Damn! These people are here way too early. They are even 1 step ahead of us. Look over there. A lot of people are training. Perhaps they have been here since last night. What a miscalculation. Luckily, there are other good spots. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go. People flooded into the audience stands. All of the warriors looked like they had gone crazy. They flew everywhere, trying to get a spot near the center. Some of them had even started to fight, glaring at each other. The good thing was that this was the Hidden Dragon ancient city, so everyone was more reserved. They did not dare to make too big of a scene. Otherwise, if there were a lot of clasping Yuan Realm warriors fighting, it would definitely be a disaster. Under the first row of the audience stands, all of the young warriors who were qualified to participate in the competition stood together in groups of 3 to 5. The atmosphere was extremely tense. Zhu Mei glanced at the flat land, frowned and said, "This battling platform is too simple. There is only a flat land. How are we going to compete?" Yi Chen said, "Don't worry, there should be something else." The head disciple of the South Rudra Martial School, Qin Yulian, walked over with a smile on her face and said, "You don't mind if I stand with you guys, right?" Yi Chen laughed, "Of course not. Last time in the scorching ancient desert, it was the headmaster of your South Rudra Martial School who helped us out. We are all from the Windy Nation. We should help each other." Qin Yulian shook her head and said, "This year's competition is full of hidden dragons and tigers. It will not be easy to make a bloody path. The good thing is that I do not have a big goal. I just want to beat one opponent after another and push myself to the limit." Su Jing said all of a sudden, the terrain has changed. The few of them raised their heads and looked over, only to see that the vast flat ground had been torn apart and stored away. After that, 12 square-shaped battle stages rose up from the ground, all of them symmetrical to each other. At the opposite corners of the battle stages, there was a hollowed-out stone pillar. The stone pillars emitted rays of light, and in the end, they formed 4 ink-blue light screens that were as thick as a fist, resembling ink-blue crystals, protecting the battle stages within. Awoo! A dragon roar came out from the deep abyss between the platforms. It was so loud that it startled a lot of the warriors in the audience seats. I don't think there was any dragon roar last year. Strange. Some of the warriors were surprised. I think this year's young warriors have too much blood and chi, which triggered some kind of mystery, which made the dragon fountain chi even more obvious. You are right. But luck is too mysterious. I wonder if it is real or not. I would rather believe it than not. The Hidden Dragon Ancient Place and the Hidden Dragon Ancient City are very mysterious. After a while, the audience seats were filled with people. Then, all of the powerful warriors from different martial institutions sat in the first row. The 13 judges split up. The head judge sat right in front of them while the rest of them kept an equal distance from each other. They were all observing the battling platforms down there so that they could make a decision at any time. As usual, the head judge would explain the rules of the competition. The rules of the competition were very simple. Besides the low-rank attacking great weapons, no other great weapons were allowed to be used. No pellets or destructive weapons like the Silver Light Thunderbolt bomb was allowed. Anyone who broke the rules would either lose the competition or lose the right to participate and be kicked out of the arena. Besides, the 700 contestants would be divided into 12 groups to compete for points. There would be 10 rounds of competition, and only 12 people from each group would be able to make it to the next stage of the competition. Once they made it to the next stage, they would be able to join any 2 groups and continue with the second stage of the competition. 12 people from each group would also make it to the next stage of the competition. It sounded very easy, but it was not easy for the young generation of contestants. There were 10 rounds in the first stage of the competition, and 10 rounds in the second stage as well. It would be 20 rounds in total. 20 rounds of battles would definitely be extremely tough. If one did not have a strong mentality, he or she would definitely break down under the pressure of the competition and lose the upper hand. Therefore, the competitions of the Hidden Dragon rank would not only test one's power, but also one's mentality. Of course, there would also be an element of intelligence, since no one else would be able to win 20 rounds in a row except for the top 10. For most of the people, it was worth considering when to fight and when to give up. They would not be able to act recklessly. Everyone, please take a look at the jade tags that you got from the challenge stage. There is your group number on it. The head judge Luo Jiaqing activated his Jin Qi and said loudly. Hearing him, all of the young warriors took out their jade tags from their storage rings. Group 3. Yi Chen looked at the jade tags and said. I am Group 5. I am Group 6. Group 10. Su Jing and the other 2 announced their groups. The 4 of them separated and went to the judges of their groups to fill in their personal information and get their individual numbers. Then, it would be the group elimination competition. He is also in this group. After getting his number, Yuan Hengying noticed Yi Chen, who was standing nearby. He was both surprised and nervous. He was surprised because he had the chance to beat Yi Chen right away, but he was nervous because he did not have much confidence. The 2 conflicting emotions made him clench his fists tightly. Chapter 247. Soon, the elimination of the group began. In Group 3, the first 2 contestants on the stage were early clasping Yuan realm. One of them was using a blade art while the other one was using a fist art. Both their blade art and fist art were at high levels. The aftershocks of their attacks landed on the fist-thick, dark blue light wall, making a loud booming sound and sending sparks everywhere. After over 100 rounds of attacks, the contestant who used the fist art was slightly more powerful. He avoided the blade light and shattered his opponent's Jin Qi layer with one punch, winning the battle. The second battle, Yuan Hengying against Huang Lang. In the first row of the audience seating, the judge of Group 3 yelled. Hearing him, Yuan Hengying sneered and flew towards the battling platform. That powerful dark blue light wall was like a water curtain. Waves spread out, but it did not stop him. Please. Huang Lang looked ordinary. He cupped his hands and said politely. Yuan Hengying said impatiently, cut the crap, eat my claw first. As he spoke, Yuan Hengying quickly activated his Jin Qi and made a grabbing gesture in the air with his right hand. Dark cyan Jin Qi shot up into the sky and transformed into a huge eagle claw. Once this Jin Qi eagle claw appeared, it gave people a sense of ancient evil, as if it was a demon's claw. His ace attack has turned into a normal attack. It seems that Yuan Hengying has improved a lot. Yu Qin raised his eyebrows. Back in the Heaven Dream Battle Palace, Yuan Hengying and Zhuang Fei had attacked Yu Qin together and used this attack. However, that was his most powerful attack. Right now, he had used it right on the stage. Obviously, it was not because he was serious about his opponent, but because he had an even more powerful attack. Huang Lang was a contestant who had passed the 3 challenges of the Dragon Gate. Facing this attack from Yuan Hengying, although he looked serious, he still tried his best to block it. However, Yuan Hengying did not want to give him a chance to rest. He kept attacking with his claws, aiming at the weak point of his Zhenqi layer. Boom! Under Yuan Hengying's powerful attack, Huang Lang's Zhenqi layer only lasted for a short while before it was broken. The Group 3 judge nodded silently. Yuan Hengying was indeed one of the top young warriors in the last Hidden Dragon rank. He had a great chance to make it into the rank again. Clearing his throat, he announced his opponent for the 3rd battle. Yu Chen's number was towards the back, and the first round of the competition was arranged according to the order of the number, so it would take some time before it was his turn. Taking advantage of the fact that there were no intense matches in Group 3, he raised his head and looked towards the other dueling platforms. It's Lynch. On the Group 7 battling platform, Lynch was facing a mid-class Bing Yuan realm contestant. In terms of cultivation, Lynch was only at the peak level early class Bing Yuan realm, which meant that he was not as powerful as his opponent. However, in terms of fighting power, that contestant was no match for Lynch. First, his weapon was knocked away by a single blade attack, and then his protective Zhenqi layer was cut open. Amazing. He is currently the first contestant to defeat an opponent who is a level higher than him. The Group 7 judge had a look of admiration on his face. After sizing up Lynch, Yu Qin shifted his gaze. Coincidentally, he saw another familiar person. It was the second disciple of the alchemist martial school, Tian Hao. However, he was unlucky, as he had encountered a rather powerful opponent. He had been completely defeated after 30 attacks. After that, Yu Qin watched a few more battles. Most of the contestants were at the early or mid-class Bing Yuan realm. There were only 30 or 40 people who had reached the late-class Bing Yuan realm, and as for peak-level late-class Bing Yuan realm, there were less than 10 of them. The head disciple of the Ice Extreme Martial School, Bing Ling, is on the stage. In the last Hidden Dragon rank, she was ranked 7th. Her opponent is not weak either. He was ranked 23rd in the last Hidden Dragon rank. No way. He was defeated with only 1 punch. Around the Group 4 battling platform, all of the young warriors were shocked. The warrior who was ranked 23rd in the last Hidden Dragon rank could not even take 1 punch from Bing Ling. It seemed like Bing Ling had not used all of her power at all. As for how much power she had used, only she herself would know. The hot candidates for the top 5 are indeed not something we can predict. The top 10 and below are not even worth mentioning. In the end, everyone came to a conclusion. The contestants who had the power to compete for the top 5 were already way beyond the others. They were not even on the same level. If they ran into them, they would probably be killed within seconds. Yu Qin had also noticed this. Although his opponent was very powerful, he was still not able to compete with him. He only had one opponent, which was Xikong Sheng. His powerful soul power allowed him to sense the opponent's power with amazing accuracy. The 10th battle, Yu Qin against Xiao Heng. Finally, it was Yu Chen's turn to compete on the stage. Unfortunately, his opponent was also a late-class Bing Yuan realm contestant, who was ranked 35 in the last Hidden Dragon rank. His weapon was a long silver spear, the tip of the spear shining with a cold light. I got the first point. Obviously, his opponent did not take Yu Qin seriously at all. He tapped his feet on the ground and his body flashed, floating in the air. The long spear in his hand was like a poisonous snake coming out of its cave. The spear shone with a bright light, looking extremely cold. Yu Qin stood where he was without moving. He released the poetic perspective of his lone peak kill, covering his opponent's mind. What? This is an illusion. There would not be 1,000 mountains and rivers appearing on the battling platform. His opponent's mind had been disturbed, and his spear art had lost its accuracy and power. Casually walking, Yi Chen appeared in front of his opponent at a normal speed and broke his Jin Qi layer with one punch. His back bumped into the dark blue light wall. His opponent looked at Yi Chen with a slight fear in his eyes. If he could, he did not want to face Yi Chen ever again. That feeling of being unable to use his power, and having his sense of space messed up, was driving him crazy. He believed that if he fought with Yi Chen for a few more battles, his condition would drop to an unprecedented level. Thank you. Not daring to look at Yi Chen, his opponent hurried to run out of the exit. He was afraid that Yi Chen would perform that horrifying poetic perspective on him again. Yi Chen touched his chin, thinking that he might have gone too far. Although the poetic perspective of the lone peak kill was useful, it would make his opponent's condition drop. If he ran into someone with a bad mentality, it might even affect his battling condition completely, and he would only be able to perform 80 to 90% of his power. Never mind, I will not use the poetic perspective of the lone peak kill unless it is absolutely necessary. I will use the sky-shattering clouds poetic perspective for now. In the previous battles, Yi Chen did not plan to use his sword intent. Therefore, he could only choose between the two poetic perspectives of the lone peak kill and the sky-shattering clouds. What is going on? Is he going easy on me? The poetic perspective of the lone peak kill only had a range of 10 meters. A lot of people had no idea what was going on, including Yuan Hengying, who had a very bad look on his face. Only the Group 3 judge looked shocked. His mental power was extremely powerful, and he could sense all the tiny changes on the stage. Yi Chen's lone peak kill poetic perspective did not hide from him. To be honest, among the clasping Yuan realm warriors, he had rarely seen anyone who could push their martial poetic perspective to this level. It could even affect the senses of the warriors. No wonder that contestant was so scared towards the end. Chapter 248. Interesting. The judge of the third group smiled. It had only been 10 battles, and there had already been an outstanding warrior. After a few more rounds, it should be easy to tell who would be powerful enough to make it to the next round. The 11th battle, Teng Imo against Gao Feng. Just as the judge's voice landed, the third group had been quiet for a while. Then, the discussion started like a tide, never stopping. In the last Hidden Dragon rank, Teng Imo was ranked 19. I did not expect him to get on the stage so soon. There are no powerful warriors in the third group. Without any surprises, he would definitely be in the top 2. I wonder if this contestant named Gao Feng could last a little bit longer and force out part of Teng Mo's power. Difficult. It would be impressive if he could last 3 attacks. Teng Imo is not a normal young warrior. As the crowd continued to discuss, Teng Imo and Gao Feng walked onto the stage. Teng Imo was wearing a black outfit with a gold crown on his head. His eyebrows were like sharp swords, extremely sharp. Normally, a teenager with eyebrows like this should be very handsome, or at least very handsome. Unfortunately, Teng Mo's appearance had broken this rule. His face was long and narrow, and his eyes were long and narrow. His nose was pointy, and his lips were extremely thin. He did not give people a good first impression, like a combination of a snake and a fox. The young man standing in front of Teng Imo was about 19 to 20 years old. He was tall and skinny, wearing a light gray long robe. His long hair was casually tied behind his head with a string, which made him look fresh and elegant. Facing a powerful opponent like Teng Imo, he did not have any expression on his face. He had been very calm, so calm that it was creepy. This Gao Feng is not simple. Yi Chen's opinion was different from everyone else's. In his eyes, Gao Feng, who looked calm and collected, was very powerful, almost as powerful as Teng Imo. Besides that, Yi Qin sensed a similar mentality from Gao Feng. It was the mentality of not being bound by the rules, and walking on his own path. If it was not hard to guess, his martial arts should be just like his mentality as well. On the battling platform, the two stood 50 meters away from each other. What? You don't want to give up? Tang Imo squinted his eyes. Gao Feng shook his head. I'm thinking, how many moves do I need to defeat you? Once he said that, not only did Ting Mo's expression change, even the people who were watching the battle could not help but roll their eyes. They felt that Ting Imo was just too arrogant. Who was Ting Imo? He was ranked 19 in the last Hidden Dragon rank, and had already reached the late clasping Yuan realm. His martial arts and martial skills were among the top of the young generation. He was only slightly weaker than Xikong Sheng and the others. If it were not for the fact that there were so many martial geniuses in this year's Hidden Dragon rank, he would definitely be one of the hot candidates for the top 10. Even so, no one could guarantee that he did not have the power to fight for the top 10. Ha! As if he'd heard the funniest joke, Tang Imo roared with laughter, and then his expression turned ghastly. Very good, I want to see how many moves it will take for you to defeat me. But before that, I plan to defeat you in 10 moves. I don't know if you're mentally prepared. Our chances of winning have increased a little. Gao Feng did not answer the question. Arrogant. Tang Imo was enraged. A dim light flashed on his storage ring, and a thin sword appeared in his hand. He shook his wrist, and hundreds of thousands of sword lights shot out of the thin sword. Each of them was mixed with a fiery red intent, sealing the space where Gao Feng was, trying to defeat him with one sword attack. It has appeared. It is Ting Mo's signature sword art, the Starfire Burning Sword. The Starfire Burning Sword is a high-rank Earth Realm sword art. With one sword attack, the sword light will be like a prairie fire, covering a huge area. It is almost impossible to dodge. And once you can't dodge it, you will have to face wave after wave of powerful attacks. Hearing the discussions of the contestants around him, Yi Qin touched his chin. Disciples from big martial institutions were indeed powerful. All of their sword arts were high-rank Earth Realm, which gave them a natural advantage. If he had guessed it right, this Starfire Burning Sword was not only powerful, but also the follow-up attacks. That kind of prairie fire poetic perspective was quite horrifying. Of course, the premise was that Tang Imo had learned the poetic perspective of the Starfire Burning Sword. Otherwise, no matter how powerful it was, it would only be powerful. Let's see how you are going to dodge it. Tang Imo was extremely confident about the Starfire Burning Sword. He believed that Gao Feng would not be able to dodge this attack. And once he failed to dodge, it would just be the beginning of his nightmare. Gao Feng indeed would not be able to dodge this sword attack. Therefore, he did not choose to dodge. Instead, he rushed towards the countless sword lights. A sword appeared in his hand as well. It was a shiny silver sword. The sword was 4 feet and 1 inch long, and 3 fingers wide. As he waved his arm, balls of silver white sword light started to move around in the air. Along with the puffing sound, that burning sword light was shattered halfway, turning into thousands of sparks, looking extremely beautiful. What? It was broken. Tang Imo could not believe his own eyes. Although this sword attack was the starting movement of the Starfire Burning Sword, among the warriors at the same level as him, no one had ever broken this attack with skills. When Gao Feng rushed towards him, he was actually very happy, because those sword lights were not normal sword lights. They were sword lights that could explode, just like a fire explosion. When hundreds of sword lights exploded one after another, no matter how powerful the Zhen Qi layer was, it would not be able to block it out. Among all the contestants off the stage, only Yi Qin could see through it with just one glance. Completely seeing through the tracks and weaknesses of the sword light, using the vibrating power to break the exploding power of the sword light from the inside. This is not something that normal people could do. What had just happened was as fast as lightning, and there were countless sword lights blocking it. However, Yi Chen's eyesight was extremely good. He only needed to see how Gao Feng had broken the sword light just by looking at the scene of the sword light shattering. Impressive. Teng Mo's first attack has been broken. What a surprise. How come this year's Hidden Dragon rank competitions are all so crazy? I have never seen this Gao Feng before. Most of the people could not see through it, but it did not stop them from knowing how powerful Gao Feng was. The battle that they thought was going to be one-sided had now turned into an even match, and the tables had even been turned. All of a sudden, everyone became interested and stared at the stage without blinking. Starfire Ring. Teng Imo was, after all, one of the top young warriors, so he quickly adjusted his mentality. He tapped the ground with the tip of his foot, and his body jumped high into the air. He swung his sword downwards, and the flame-like sword light, under the effect of inertia and rotational force, turned into a blazing ring of fire, and shot toward Teng Imo. I have underestimated him. Gao Feng's pupils shrank. He could naturally see the power of the fire ring. It was different from the simple sword light, and this fire ring was made of sword light. It would be very hard to break it with one sword attack. If he was not careful, he would be wounded by the exploding power of the fire ring. Since this is the case, then let's fight it head-on. The silver long sword was pointed at the ground. Streams of gray smoke appeared out of nowhere on Gao Feng's right arm. The smoke slowly rose up like a fire without any temperature. Sword explosion. Taking a step forward with his right foot, Gao Feng threw out a sword attack towards the sky. Woo! Woo! A horrible crying sound was heard. As Gao Feng threw out his sword attack, the burning fire ring was blown out. The gray sword wind blew right towards Teng Imo, seeming unstoppable. Gao Feng has won. Seeing this, Yi Chen shook his head. Teng Imo was indeed very powerful, but unfortunately, he had not mastered all of the essence of the star fire burning sword art. He had not learned the mentality of the sword art either. Otherwise, Teng Imo would not be able to break through his sword movement so easily. If it were him performing the star fire burning sword art, even normal astral reaching realm warriors would not be able to break through it with skills. Chapter 249. Just like Yi Chen had expected, Teng Imo had lost. Instead of saying that he lost to Gao Feng, it would be more accurate to say that he lost to himself. From the very beginning, he had underestimated Gao Feng. He did not bring out all of his power and his peak condition for the competition. By the time he realized what had happened, the situation had already gone out of his control. After beating Teng Imo, Gao Feng's popularity had skyrocketed. No one could compete with him in Group 3. Contestants from other groups could not help but pay attention to Gao Feng as well. It was not that they did not have powerful young warriors in their groups, it was actually the exact opposite. It was because the powerful warriors in their groups were too powerful that the competition had no suspense at all. One could even guess the result with one's butt. Battles like this between Teng Imo and Gao Feng, where both of them were equally powerful, had rarely happened before. That Gao Feng is pretty powerful, and he is quite lucky as well. He is in Group 3, which does not have any powerful warriors. Yeah. Out of the 12 groups, 5 of them are known as the death groups. There are a lot of powerful warriors, and Group 3 is the safest group. The contestants in that group also have the highest chance of making it to the next round. No matter what, one's own power is the most important thing. In the first stage of the elimination competition, 12 people from each group will make it to the next round. Then, any 2 groups will be combined into one group, and the second stage of the elimination competition will begin. By then, out of the 24 people, 12 people will be eliminated. Being able to stand out from the group competition, who doesn't have a few ace attacks? I can already imagine how cruel the second stage of the elimination competition will be. None of the battles will be easy. The battles started one after another, and ended one after another. The speed was surprisingly fast. Many of the battles were finished within 10 attacks, and some people even gave up right away. Of course, it was a very rare situation after all. Most of the battles would take around 100 attacks to decide the winner. During the battles, Yichen would occasionally pay attention to some familiar people, such as Su Jing, Zhu Mei, and Lynch. Su Jing indeed did not need anyone to worry about her. Up until now, no one had been able to last more than 10 attacks from her. She was just like a female warrior from the ancient times. Her movements were fast, and her power was fast. Every movement she made contained the power of a thunderbolt, which made people scared. This situation lasted for about 3 or 4 rounds, and finally, someone chose to admit defeat, and it was a young master who was neither too old nor too young. Regarding this, the others did not show a look of disdain. Su Jing's strength was obvious to all, and there was not the slightest bit of falsehood. Moreover, what gave them a headache was that Su Jing's moves were big and wide, and she liked to force her opponents to fight her head-on. As a result, under repeated head-on clashes, no matter how strong one's body was, they would not be able to bear it. Their bones and muscles would be sore, and it would inevitably affect the later rounds. What surprised them was that Su Jing, who had a graceful figure and slender arms, did not even blush, nor was she out of breath, as if the previous battle was just a drizzle. Compared to Su Jing, Zhu Mei was having a much harder time. After 4 rounds of battles, she had lost 2 and won 2, which was considered average. She could not blame herself for losing the 2 battles. Her opponents were way more powerful than her. Even if she had tried her best, she would not have been able to win. As for the 2 battles that she had won, it was not easy at all. The first battle was over 200 rounds, and the second battle was even. No, Zhu Mei was slightly weaker than her opponent. Since the beginning of the battle, she had been at a disadvantage. After 400 rounds, Zhu Mei had caught onto her opponent's flaws and launched a thunderous counterattack. She had completely turned the situation around and won the battle. Needless to say, in terms of disciples, the North Snow Martial Academy had already completely surpassed the Emerald Martial Palace. Judging on the number of disciples, only the Emerald Child from the Emerald Martial Palace had the right to participate in the knockout competitions. Ji Xuan and Lu Wuxiang had both been knocked out in the 3 challenges of the Dragon Gate. Meanwhile, there were 2 disciples from the North Snow Martial Academy who had the right to participate in the knockout competitions, namely the North Snow Child Su Wen and the North Snow Fast Blade Lynch. Judging on the quality, Su Wen might be a bit weaker than Zhuang Fei, but Lynch was definitely better than Zhuang Fei in every aspect. In the 4 rounds of battles, Su Wen was the same as Zhuang Fei, he had lost 1 and won 3. There were 1 or 2 that he barely managed to win, and he had almost lost. As for Lynch, who had mastered the blade intent, he seemed to be much more relaxed. Without using all of his power, he had already won 4 battles in a row. Without any surprises, he should be able to smoothly advance to the next stage of the knockout competitions. The last one was the head disciple of the South Rudra Martial School, Qin Yulian. Her power was not to be underestimated, and she had trained the Sky First Holy Water spell, which was quite a high rank. She had lost 1 and won 3 out of the 4 rounds, so there was still hope for her to advance to the next stage. This year is not only the peak of the Hidden Dragon rank competitions, it is also the peak of our Windy Nation's young generation. Sitting in the first row of the audience, Luo Xinglie said emotionally. The headmaster nodded, not to mention Zhuang Fei and Su Wen, the 2 famous young warriors, Su Jing, Zhu Mei, Qin Yulian, and Lynch have all grown up. Plus, Yi Chen, this rare martial genius, it is indeed the peak of the Windy Nation. Among the 7 of them, if Yi Chen is not the second one, then out of the other 6, who do you think has a higher chance of making it to the next stage? The headmaster thought for a while, first would be Su Jing, then Lynch. The rest of them are almost at the same power level, so it is hard to say. About the same as I thought. Let's wait and see. Yi Chen's battle has started. The two stopped talking and looked towards the Group 3 battling platform. On the battling platform, Yi Chen was standing 50 meters away from his opponent, and his opponent was indeed the head disciple of the Sky Eagle Castle, Yuan Hengying. Yi Chen, don't think that you can beat me easily just because you are one rank higher than me. For this hidden dragon rank competition, I have prepared quite a lot of ace attacks. Yuan Hengying was very scared of Yi Chen. If it were any other contestant, he would not even bother to tell his opponent about the ace attacks that he had prepared. However, facing Yi Chen, Yuan Hengying did not dare to be careless at all. He hoped that Yi Chen would know that he had hidden his ace attacks, and that he would not be able to do anything during the battle. Yi Chen secretly laughed. How could he not know what Yuan Hengying was thinking? Of course, this method seems simple, but it was actually quite practical. Unfortunately, he had used it on the wrong person. Alright, what's the point of talking so much? The battle will be over soon. Let's do it. Yi Chen decided to finish the battle as soon as possible. He was not interested in wasting time with Yuan Hengying at all, because Yuan Hengying was not at the same level as him at all. Yuan Hengying's face turned red. Yi Chen's impatient tone had pissed him off. Since when could he, Yuan Hengying, be looked down upon? Demon Eagle World. Hit. Growling, Yuan Hengying pushed his Jin Qi to its limit. The dark cyan-colored Jin Qi spread out from his body like the wings of an eagle. After that, an incomparably huge Jin Qi eagle claw swooshed across the sky, releasing an ancient evil power. Pop! The sword light flashed, and the Jin Qi eagle claw was shattered. Yi Chen walked towards Yuan Hengying step by step. Damn! Yuan Hengying was shocked. Although he knew that his ace attack, Demon Eagle World, would not be able to stop Yi Chen's counterattack, it was still out of his expectation that it would be broken within a second. His heart was beating intensely. Yuan Hengying was a bit panicked. However, when he saw Yi Chen walking towards him step by step, his panic was replaced by anger. So arrogant. Do you really think that I can't do anything to you? Demon Eagle Revealing Fist. Taking a heavy step forward with his right foot, Yuan Hengying clenched both of his fists and threw out a punch from the middle. That crazy dark blue Jin Qi was arranged in a weird pattern, and all of it was poured into his fist. In the next second, a horrifying eagle screech was heard. A slightly blurry demon eagle flew out. Before, Yuan Hengying had only thrown out the claws of the demon eagle. But now, under his anger, he had created the entire demon eagle, which had increased the power by at least 50%. No wonder he was a bit confident. Let's see how you are going to block. Before he finished his sentence, Yuan Hengying's face froze. In his sight, that extremely aggressive demon eagle had been cut in half by Yi Chen's sword before, and turned into nothingness. Then, a bright sword light filled his sight, and he could not see anything anymore. Swoosh! His protective Jin Qi was broken, and Yuan Hengying was blown away, crashing into the dark blue light wall. One sword attack. Instant kill. Seeing this, people from the Sky Eagle Castle Martial School did not look good. Yuan Hengying had lost way too fast, which caught them off guard. However, Yi Chen's improvement had shocked them even more. Back in the scorching ancient desert, Yi Chen could only fight against the outer masters of the multiple mountain martial school, and was not an opponent for any of the inner masters. But in just 1 year, his cultivation had not only reached the late clasping Yuan realm, but his attacking power had also increased drastically. Among all the people from the Sky Eagle Castle Martial School, besides the leader of the Sky Eagle Castle Martial School who was an early astral reaching realm warrior, no one dared to say that they could beat Yi Chen. In fact, they were all very clear that Yi Chen had not used all of his power yet. Yuan Hengying did not lose for nothing. They are not at the same level at all. The leader of the Sky Eagle Castle Martial School frowned as he glanced at Yi Chen, who had just walked off the stage. Yi Chen wins. After announcing the result, the judge of the Group 3 touched his chin and smiled. He thought that he had seen through Yi Chen, but it seemed like he was far from it. Yuan Hengying, who had a great chance of making it to the top 72, could not even handle one sword attack from him. Seriously speaking, there was no such thing as handling the attack, because Yuan Hengying did not even see how the sword got there. It seems like he should be the number one in the group 3. The fact that there were not many powerful young warriors in the group 3 was already known to everyone. Otherwise, the judge of the group 3 would not dare to make such a claim. Off the stage, on the audience seating, everyone who had seen this battle was very surprised. They started to discuss it passionately. Another one who has hidden his strength. That sword was so fast. I thought that there were only Teng Imo and Gao Feng in the group 3, but now, I do not dare to think like that anymore. At least, this guy named Yi Chen is not weaker than Teng Imo. He might even be stronger than him. Yeah, I think so too. His sword art was way too fast. Even I was shocked. I wonder how much of his power he had used. Maybe only 70 to 80%. Hearing everyone's words, Gao Feng shook his head. He did not think that Yi Chen had used 70 to 80% of his power. He might not even have used 60% of his power. He was a horrifying opponent. Of course, if he had used 60% of his power, Gao Feng would still have 30% chance of winning against Yi Chen. What he was afraid of was that his opponent did not even use 60% of his power. That would be horrifying. I don't think he would be that powerful. Gao Feng shook his head again. He looked at Yi Chen seriously. He might be a contestant that he would have to face in the group competition. Zhu Mei had also watched Yi Chen's battle. She could not help but ask, Yi Chen, how much of his power did you use? Half of half. Chapter 250. Zhu Mei and Qin Yulian looked at each other. They both knew that Yi Chen was very powerful, but they did not expect him to be this powerful. Half of half, that meant that he had not even used 30% of his power. His opponent was Yuan Hengying, who was ranked 59 in the last Hidden Dragon rank. Right then, Yi Chen had become a stranger in their eyes. It was not a stranger in terms of friendship, but a stranger in terms of power. There was a kind of strangeness called gap. Glancing at Lynch and Zhuang Fei, Qin Yulian forced a smile and thought to herself, you have set Yi Chen as your goal. Unfortunately, you do not know how tiring and desperate it is to catch up with him. From the moment he surpassed us, the gap between us had already been decided. Su Jing's fifth battle had ended with her victory. She walked down from the stage and saw Zhu Mei and Qin Yulian's expressions. She knew what was going on, but she shook her head silently. In her mind, Yi Chen was a monster. He had a calmness and willpower that did not match his age. Even she, who was always calm, felt ashamed of herself. With her sharp observation, she had never seen such horrifying qualities in any young man. Sometimes, she wondered if there was anything that could make him lose his mind. Unfortunately, besides Yi Chen himself, no one really knew him. In fact, Yi Chen sometimes did not know himself too well. Because Yi Chen was an orphan in the other world, he had to work hard and improve himself. Therefore, when other kids were playing around, he was already very mature. In some aspects, he was even more mature than an adult. After he became an adult, his mind was even more outstanding, and nothing could shake him. Of course, not every orphan was like Yi Chen. After all, everyone had a different way of growing up. However, after coming to this world, Yi Chen, who was seen as a piece of trash by others, was actually very smart. When he was bullied by his cousin Yi Chen, he knew how to be patient and think about the big picture. He didn't want to make his father feel bad, so he worked even harder behind the scenes, using 10 times the effort in exchange for a little reward. Otherwise, with his talent, it would be almost impossible for him to become an outer disciple of the Sky Cloud Martial School. However, everything has its pros and cons. Years of forbearance had caused the Yi Chen of this world to lose his sharpness, a sharpness that allowed him to advance bravely. Sometimes, losing one's sharpness was even more terrifying than having no talent. If everything had developed normally, and the current Yi Chen had not appeared, the chances of him becoming an inner disciple would have been extremely small, let alone becoming a core disciple or even his current position. Everything was like smoke in the past. After merging with Yi Chen's soul from this world, Yi Chen's weaknesses were infinitely reduced, while his strengths were infinitely magnified, creating a monster in the eyes of others. The fifth round, Yi Chen vs Cui Chang. I admit defeat. Yi Chen's power was obvious to everyone. He was the first contestant to admit defeat. To this, Zhu Mei laughed and said, "You will have it easy from now on. Except for a few people in Group 3, basically no one would be able to compete with you. Instead of wasting time and being killed by you within a second, it would be better for you to save up your energy and spirit to fight against other contestants that you can handle." Yi Chen did not really care if there were people who had admitted defeat or not, since all he needed to do was wave his sword once on the stage, and it would consume almost no energy at all. On the other hand, Zhu Mei's battle would not be easy at all, so he reminded her, "With my estimation, in your group, there would be around 3 to 7 people who would get the full score. In the following battles, if you do not lose a single one, you would have a 100% chance of making it to the next round. If you lose one, you would have 50% chance of making it to the next round. If you lose two, you would have less than 10% chance." Although Yi Chen's words were not accurate to a certain degree, it was still very close. It should be known that in terms of vision, even astral-reaching realm warriors might not be better than him. All the information of every contestant in Zhu Mei's group was in Yi Chen's head. Even if they were hiding their power, he could still see through most of them. Then, he added the probability and statistics, and finally came up with this number. Zhu Mei did not doubt him at all, so she said, "Then, in the next 5 battles, I would have to lose one. It would be a bit difficult, but I will try my best." She had just won the 5th battle, and now she had won 3 battles and lost 2. The first stage of the competition could be a bit lucky. As long as you are lucky enough, it should not be a problem for you to make it to the second stage. In the first stage of the competition, there would be more than 50 contestants in each group, and everyone would have to go through 10 battles. At most, they would run into 10 people, and the remaining 40 or so people would not have a chance at all. Therefore, even the weakest contestants would be able to get into the top few of their group if they were lucky enough. With Zhu Mei's power, it would not be a miracle for her to make it to the next round. Looks like Lynch has met his opponent. Right at that moment, the two's attention was attracted by the battle of the 11th group. The 2 people on the stage were none other than the North Snow Quick Blade Lynch, and the other was Wei Renjie, who was ranked 37th in the last Hidden Dragon rank. On the stage, the blade light was flying everywhere, and the human shadows were moving in a blur. Both of them were young warriors who had made great achievements in their blade arts, and it was hard to tell who they were. Yi Chen shook his head. Lynch was a bit unlucky. No matter cultivation or blade intent, Wei Renjie was way more powerful than Lynch. The reason why they were evenly matched right now was because Wei Renjie had not used all of his power yet. Obviously, he was just excited about the result. Good, not bad. Even if I give you another 1 or 2 years, I might not be able to beat you. Wei Renjie laughed out loud. His blade aura suddenly became even more powerful, pushing Lynch into an absolute disadvantage. Snow Dance Sky. Lynch did not have any expression on his face. He held his air-shattering blade with both of his hands, and his blade aura started to roll up. All of a sudden, it was like a snowstorm had started to fall on the stage, and the blade light was everywhere. Break! Without any technique, Wei Renjie held his blade with only one hand, jumped into the air, and threw out a blade attack. Boom! The snow-like blade light was shattered one after another, and Lynch crashed into the dark blue light wall. Thank you. Wei Renjie held his fists together as he put away his great blade and jumped off the stage. Off the stage, a lot of people were watching this battle and discussing it. Wei Renjie is indeed a blade art master of the young generation. His blade intent has at least reached the entry level. Lynch is not bad either. His blade art skills are no weaker than Wei Renjie's. The only thing he is lacking is his cultivation and blade intent. With enough time, it would not be impossible for him to catch up with Wei Renjie. Indeed. Normal blade artists are nothing in Wei Renjie's eyes. He obviously likes Lynch. Oh right, can Lynch make it into the top 10 new stars this year? It would be a bit difficult. Even if he could make it, he would probably be at the bottom. There are too many new warriors this year, and it would not be easy to stand out from the rest. Plus, there are also insane martial geniuses like Tua Baku and Qian Yun. There would be 2 less spots for no reason. Do not forget that Xikong Sheng's disciple sister, Gu Yuyun, is also not to be underestimated. Back in the day, the life and death realm king of the Floating Mountain Martial School, the Stone King, had offended too many people, which led to his whole family being killed. His bloodline had been cut off. But, no one knew that the Stone King had an illegitimate daughter outside, and Gu Yuyun was indeed the descendant of that illegitimate daughter. She has the king bloodline of the Stone King. Adding Gu Yuyun, the top 3 of the top 10 new stars have already been decided. The rest of the 7 new stars still need to be discovered. The top 10 new stars were not a regular title, because there would always be some extremely talented martial geniuses appearing in every Hidden Dragon rank competition. If they were bright enough, they would all be ranked. After the competitions of the Hidden Dragon rank had finished, those warriors who did not come to watch the competitions would be able to know how powerful those young warriors were through their understanding of the top 10 new stars. That way, they would be able to have a better understanding of them. Otherwise, with so many contestants in the competition, it would be really hard to understand all of them. The 6th battle, Yichen against Xuechuyan. I give up. The pretty-looking young lady raised up her hand, indicating that she had given up. The 7th battle, Yichen against Guoheng. I give up. The 8th battle, Yichen, the 9th battle, Yichen. No one knew if it was because Yichen had killed Yuan Hengying with only one sword attack, but from the 5th battle onwards, all of the contestants who were going against Yichen had given up, not wanting to waste any more time. As for the other people from the Windy Nation, they seemed to be having a hard time. Out of the 9 battles, Su Jing had won 8 and lost 1. It was not a bad loss, as her opponent was a young warrior who was ranked 22 in the last Hidden Dragon rank, who was extremely powerful. Even so, Su Jing did not lose immediately. She had fought for hundreds of attacks before the winner was decided, which had surprised a lot of people and made her into the top 10 new stars. After Lynch had lost to Wei Renjie, he had lost another battle. His opponent was also a young warrior who was ranked at the top of the last Hidden Dragon rank. Zhuang Fei had won 7 and lost 2. Su Wen had won 6 and lost 3. Qin Yulian had won 6 and lost 3. Zhu Mei's luck seemed to have run out. From the 8th battle onwards, she had lost all the way to the 9th battle. Without any surprises, there was no chance for her to make it to the next round. It would be a lie if Zhu Mei said that she was not disappointed. But she also understood that it was rare for her to be able to make it this far. She still had one last battle, and no matter if she won or lost, she would have to use all of her energy and make a breakthrough from there. Only then would she not waste this opportunity. The 10th battle, Yichen against Qin Jie. Qin Jie did not choose to give up. He was not a nobody. In the last Hidden Dragon rank, he was ranked 43, so he did not think that he would lose to Yichen. Take my most powerful attack, Tiger Break Kill. His aura was like that of a lion or a tiger. Qin Jie had crossed dozens of meters, throwing out a punch towards Yichen. Driven by that aura, the air in front of him seemed to have been sucked out instantly. Qin. 2 beams of sword light flashed through. The first one had broken the aura, while the second one had torn apart Qin Jie's protective Zhenqi layer. The sword pressure had blown his opponent away. Yichen wins. The Group 3 judge was not surprised at all. He raised his hand, indicating that Yi Chen had won the last battle. Impressive. Once he makes his move, the battle would be over instantly. Top 10 new stars, he could be ranked 5th. That Su Jing would be ranked 8th, and Gao Feng would be 9th. Lynch's cultivation is a bit weaker, so it would not be his turn to be in the top 10 new stars. In everyone's mind, Tuo Baku would be ranked 1st without a doubt. Qian Yun, a disciple of the rank 6 martial institution, the Sunset Martial School, and Gu Yuyun, a disciple of the rank 6 martial institution, the Floating Mountain Martial School, would definitely be ranked 2nd and 3rd. The 4th would be a rare martial genius from a rank 7 martial institution from the Ice Crystal Empire, and the 5th would be Yi Chen. The 6th and 7th would still be the top disciples from other rank 6 martial institutions. The 8th would be Su Jing, the 9th would be Gao Feng, and the 10th would be a top disciple from another rank 6 martial institution. This ranking might not be accurate, but judging from the battles right now, it should be about right. After all, some of the people had been hiding their power, and no one would be able to tell. Chapter 251. The first stage of the competition had officially ended. There were 4 people who had gotten full marks in the 3rd group, Yi Chen, Gao Feng, and 2 other famous young warriors from the last Hidden Dragon rank. The 4 of them had not run into each other in the past 10 rounds of competition, or else there would be 1 or 2 less people with full marks. The other groups had almost the same number of people with full marks as the 3rd group. The group with the highest number of full marks only had 8 people. After all, sometimes when 2 powerful warriors were fighting, one of them would definitely lose. It was not like the group with the most powerful warriors would have more people with full marks, it was a completely different concept. Unfortunately, except for Yi Chen, Su Jing and Lynch, the other 4 people from the Windy Nation had all been eliminated. Qin Yulian's competition was a bit unfair. The Sky Holy Water spell from the Rudra Martial School was at least a mid-rank Earth Realm martial art, but the lack of Zhen Qi was its biggest weakness. She had the upper hand in the beginning, but after hundreds of rounds, Qin Yulian still lost, because her Zhen Qi was not as dense as her opponent's. The leader of the Rudra Martial School, Long Bai, smiled lightly. She did not seem to care much about it. She mumbled to herself, it's time to teach her the real martial art. The reason why she did not teach her martial arts before was because the Hidden Dragon rank competition was just around the corner, and it would be hard to improve her power in a short period of time. If she was too impatient, it would actually lower her power. Martial arts were different from martial arts. Martial arts were the foundation, and could not be changed easily. Leader, it seems like using the small blue dragon tag to help the Sky Cloud Martial School was a wise move. This brat is not simple. The headmaster of the Rudra Martial School, the mature lady, smiled. Long Bai nodded, as long as he can get into the top 10, he will be qualified to be noticed by my great-grandpa. I will tell him when the time is right. I believe he will be interested. Telling the leader after getting into the top 10. Isn't it too early? No, I think it's too late. Didn't you notice the time of his rise? He has only used 3 years to get to where he is now. This is not something that normal people can do. That's true, I almost forgot. The 2 were talking through their Zhen Qi, so people around them could not hear what they were talking about. In the Sky Cloud Martial School's formation, the 4th elder said happily, Yi Chen and Su Jing have both advanced. Below the rank 7 martial schools, the Sky Cloud Martial School is definitely one of the best. The great elder smiled. Don't be too happy yet. The second stage of the elimination competition is about to begin. That will be the most brutal competition. Half of the 24 people will be eliminated. Wait and see. I can't wait anymore. Luo Xinglia was so excited. Luo Hanshan, who was standing aside, let out a bitter smile. He was happy for Yi Chen and Su Jing, but at the same time, he was also very envious of them. If only he could join the match, even one match would be worth it. After resting for about an hour, the second stage of the knockout stage began. According to the rules of the competition, any two groups would be combined into one group, which would be the 12th group. However, the number of the group would not be 3 or 12, but 7, because these two groups would be the 7th group to be combined. Different from the previous groups, each group now had 24 people. Out of the 24 people, only 12 of them would make it to the next stage, while the other 12 would be eliminated. As for the 12 people who made it to the next stage, no matter what their results in the ranking competitions were, they would all be the top warriors in this year's Hidden Dragon rank. 24 people fighting for 12 places. It seemed like there was only a 50% chance, but for the contestants, it was extremely cruel. Being able to stand out from all the groups was already a symbol of glory and power. Without exaggerating, they would be the elites among the young warriors of the South Rudra region. However, in the second stage of the knockout competition, half of the elite warriors would be eliminated. The pressure would be huge, more than 2 times more than what they had experienced before. There were quite a lot of powerful warriors in the 7th group. Not to mention Yi Chen, Gao Feng, Teng Imo, and the 2 famous young warriors from the last Hidden Dragon rank, the 12th group would not be less powerful than the 3rd group. They might even have more powerful warriors than the 3rd group. For example, the head disciple of the Ice Extreme Martial School, who was ranked 7th in the last Hidden Dragon rank, Gu Qing, who was ranked 10th in the last Hidden Dragon rank, Wu Liangyu, who was ranked 25th in the last Hidden Dragon rank, Tang Xiaoshan, who was ranked 4th in the top 10 new stars, and Gu Tingfang, who was ranked 10th in the top 10 new stars. The first battle, Teng Imo against Gu Tingfang. The first battle of the first round had begun. Both of the contestants were not unknown warriors, they were all powerful warriors from their groups. In the 3rd group, Teng Imo had only lost to Gao Feng, and was ranked 5th in terms of points. Gu Tingfang, who was ranked 10th in the top 10 new stars, had only lost one battle as well, which was against Gu Qing, who was ranked 10th in the last Hidden Dragon rank. Teng Imo did not dare to underestimate Gu Tingfang. Ever since he had lost to the unknown Gao Feng, he did not dare to underestimate any of the young warriors anymore. Shoo! Taking out his thin sword, Teng Imo did not attack right away. Instead, he stared at Gu Tingfang. Gu Tingfang's weapons were 2 light red short blades. They were 2 feet and 8 inches long, and the back of the blades was curved like a snake. The edges of the blades shone with a cold light, drawing out beams of light under the sunlight. Please teach me. Stomping on the ground, Gu Tingfang attacked first. Her whole body seemed to have become weightless as she traveled dozens of meters and appeared in front of Teng Imo within a second. Dang 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 dang, the sound of the dagger colliding with the thin sword was endless. Blazing sparks flew in all directions. It was exceptionally gorgeous and ostentatious, filled with the beauty of violence. Wild goose attack. Gu Tingfang yelled with a low voice. The 2 short blades were thrown out at an unimaginable speed, attacking towards Teng Imo, who was trying his best to defend. Chin. Countless sparks flew out, turning into 2 beautiful light bands that looked like the wings of wild geese. This was the horrifying power of the wild goose attack. Even the direction of the sparks would be affected. Teng Imo kept backing out, it seemed like he could not stop Gu Tingfang's attack at all. Teng Imo is going to lose. Although Zhu Mei and Qin Yulian had lost the right to participate in the second stage of the knockout competition, since they had participated in the first stage of the knockout competition, Zhu Mei and Qin Yulian could still watch from below the stage. They did not need to return to the audience seating. Yi Chen shook his head, within 10 attacks, Gu Tingfang is going to lose. What do you mean? Zhu Mei and Qin Yulian looked at Yi Chen curiously. Yi Chen said, the first round of attack, the second round of attack, the third round of attack. This is the unchanging truth. Gu Tingfang's attacks seemed to be very aggressive, but she had used too much power. She did not save any power. She might be able to win against a weaker contestant, but Ting Mo's power is not weaker than Gu Tingfang's, and he is even more experienced than her. It would be impossible for her to win with one attack. Once she loses her momentum, it will be Ting Mo's time to fight back. At that time, it would be almost impossible for her to win. Zhu Mei asked, "Is it not a good thing to attack too aggressively?" Not necessarily. What I mean is that Gu Tingfang's battle experience is a bit lacking. When facing an opponent at the same level, she should never let her opponent control the rhythm. Right now, the situation seems to be in Gu Tingfang's favor, but the rhythm is already in Ting Mo's hands. If I were her, I would change my fighting style before my momentum is exhausted, and I would disrupt the rhythm. That way, I would have a higher chance of winning. After all, she already had the upper hand. As soon as Yichen finished talking, the situation on the stage changed. Gu Tingfang, who had the upper hand since the beginning, was forced to step back. Just as Yichen had expected, the momentum could not keep rising without falling. When it reached a certain level, Gu Tingfang's momentum and blade finally started to fall back. Right at that moment, Tang Imo found a small flaw and launched a fierce counterattack. His thin sword, which was only as thick as 2 fingers, was like the autumn wind, like the flowing water. It was aimed at Gu Tingfang's weakness, completely disrupting her rhythm and mind. Gu Tingfang was in a hurry, and she had lost all of her previous elegance. Right now, she just wanted to win. Unfortunately, Tang Imo would not let her do that. His thin sword maintained a stable rhythm, continuously stabbing out. In this way, he did not have the weakness of having too much momentum, and he could always suppress Gu Tingfang, who did not have enough time to adjust herself. Dang! With a horizontal slash, the short blade in Gu Tingfang's right hand flew out. I lost. Gu Tingfang stopped moving and said with a bitter smile. Tang Imo was shocked. This time, he had won by luck. In the situation where they were at the same power level, the battle experience had decided the result. If they were to compete again, he would not have any confidence to win. Luckily, he had won, and he would not have to worry about running into her in the next 9 rounds. Both of them left the stage, and the second battle of the first round began. Just like what you said. Yichen, it is such a waste that you did not become a martial skill master. Zhu Mei's face was full of admiration. There were masters in the Sky Cloud Martial School who taught them martial skills. Besides teaching them martial skills, they would also teach them battling experiences. However, those experiences were obviously not as advanced as Yichen's, because Yichen was always able to get to the point and come up with countermeasures. Yichen smiled. Some of the powerful warriors would teach their disciples, and some would not. Although his eyes and experience were very advanced, he might not be able to teach his disciple well. Teaching a disciple was not about holding his hand, but about letting his disciple learn by himself. In Yichen's world, there was a saying, the master leads the way, but the training depends on the disciple himself. Of course, in a short period of time, Yichen could indeed teach someone a great battling experience. But in the long run, he would not be so sure anymore. After all, there was nothing that could be more practical than learning by oneself. Other people's knowledge would always be separated by a layer, and it would not be easy to break it. The battles of the 7th group were not too fast or too slow. In the next few battles, Bing Ling, Gu Qing, Tang Xiaoshan, and a couple of other powerful young warriors had all won their battles. Bing Ling was indeed the head disciple of the Ice Extreme Martial School, ranked 7th in the last Hidden Dragon rank. Her opponent had not even attacked before he was blown away by a punch. Gu Qing, as a warrior ranked 10th in the last Hidden Dragon rank, was also extremely powerful. He had blown away his opponent within a second. As for Tang Xiaoshan, besides Yichen, who was a hidden rank 9 martial institution martial genius, he was without a doubt the brightest one among all the new stars. He was only second to Tua Baku, and even Qian Yun and Gu Yuyun, who were ranked above him, could not compete with him. The martial institution he came from was only a normal rank 7 martial institution in the Ice Crystal Empire, which was not as powerful as the older rank 7 martial institutions, not to mention the top rank 7 martial institutions. But somehow, he had appeared, a martial genius who was thought to be one of the most powerful martial institutions. He had the chance to compete for the top 10, and even if he did not make it, he would still be able to make it to the top 20. Without any effort, Tang Xiaoshan had won the battle. His powerful power had even made Gu Qing, who was ranked 10th in the last hidden dragon rank, frown. The 8th battle of the first round, Yi Chen against Gao Feng. After a couple of powerful warriors had appeared, it was Yi Chen's turn. His opponent was the popular warrior from the third group, Gao Feng. Even Tang Yemo was not his opponent. Tang Xiaoshan was very confident in his observation. He said to the few people next to him, Gao Feng is still not quite there yet. He has about 30% chance of winning. But if Yi Chen wants to win against him, it would not be that easy. Chapter 252. Hearing his own name, Gao Feng jumped onto the battling platform with a serious face. Yi Chen did not hesitate. He tapped his foot on the ground and appeared on the battling platform almost at the same time as Gao Feng. The two stood 50 meters apart. You are very powerful. But, if you want to win 1 point from me, it will not be that easy. With his right hand holding onto his sword handle, Gao Feng said word by word. Yi Chen smiled lightly, it will be easy. Gao Feng frowned. According to his estimation, he should have 30% chance of beating Yi Chen, and it was not like he did not have any chance at all. But somehow, seeing that calm expression on Yi Chen's face, he did not have any confidence at all. For the first time, he felt like he did not know where to start. Shocked, Gao Feng thought to himself, perhaps he still has more power. On the judge's seat, the Group 3 judge and the Group 12 judge sat together. The Group 12 judge said, Gao Feng is a good seed. I can tell that he has been hiding part of his power. His sword intent should be close to completion. The Group 3 judge nodded. What I am curious about is that up until now, Yi Chen has not shown any trace of sword intent. I guess he has not learned it yet. Although the sword intent is a benchmark for sword artists, not every powerful sword artist has it. So, who can tell for sure? You are right. But it is a pity. If he had the sword intent, it would not be impossible for him to get into the top 10. The Group 3 judge had been watching Yi Chen win every single battle, so he was more or less looking forward to it. He hoped that Yi Chen would be able to shine, and that there would be more to watch. But of course, he knew that the sword intent was not that easy to learn. It was related to the comprehensive ability, but it was also related to the talent in the sword arts. But, it did not mean that just because one was talented in the sword arts, they would be able to learn the sword intent. There were a lot of astral reaching realm sword artists in this true spirit continent who had not learned the sword intent yet. And some of the warriors who did not have the comprehensive ability and the sword art talent, and did not have a high cultivation, had somehow learned the sword intent. There were some rumors about the sword intent in the true spirit continent. It was said that in order to learn the sword intent, one would need to have a pure spirit or reach the Sea of Souls realm. These two conditions were the easiest to learn the sword intent. The rest would depend on the situation, since there would always be exceptions. Senior brother Gao, if you defeat him, it will be your 11th consecutive victory. At this moment, a young woman's voice came from the audience stands. Gao Feng's expression changed. He looked over and shook his head with a bitter smile. Defeating Yi Chen was easier said than done. He could only hope that Yi Chen's strength was not beyond his imagination. The star scar sword appeared in his left hand. Without taking it out of the scabbard, Yi Chen said, "It seems like your sister disciple really wants you to win. Unfortunately, I will not go easy on you. You better not go easy on me. I will beat you fair and square." Gao Feng clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. The person who spoke was his junior martial sister, who was also his childhood sweetheart. This time, he had promised her that he would definitely achieve 12 consecutive victories to commemorate the 12 years they had known each other. Chin. Gao Feng's sword was taken out of the scabbard. The sword light flashed once, and an invisible sword pressure attacked toward Yi Chen. The calm air suddenly started to ripple like water, being pulled to an extreme. Pop! The sword pressure and the watery air had been cut open. Yi Chen's sword was only halfway out of the scabbard. Such a powerful sword aura. The judges of the 3rd and 12th group were shocked. Right then, Yi Chen seemed to be a little bit more serious. Over at the 2nd group, the head disciple of the Heartless Martial School, Li Daoxian, had accidentally noticed this. He shook his head lightly, knowing that it would be useless to not learn the sword intent. Sword explosion. The sword pressure was only the beginning. Gao Feng performed the ace attack that he had used to beat Ting Imo. He threw out a sword attack, bringing up the sword wind and the sword qi. Pop! Another crisp sound was heard. The sword wind and the sword qi had been shattered, and the tip of Yi Chen's sword was finally revealed from the scabbard. The sword light that was as deep as the stars shone. Impressive. Gao Feng took a deep breath. He had never seen a sword artist at the same level as him who could break his ultimate move with only sword momentum. However, this was just the beginning. He was a sword artist who had comprehended the sword intent. Unfortunately, 2 months ago, his sword intent had officially entered the entry level. Pushing his sword intent, Gao Feng's sword aura was extremely condensed. It was indestructible, and nothing could shake it, including Yi Chen's sword aura. In the next second, Gao Feng suddenly appeared in front of Yi Chen. The sound of metal clashing and the burning sparks spread out in all directions. Below the stage, in the spectator seats, many of the younger generation and the spectating martial artists could only see 2 blurry figures, one blue and one green, crisscrossing and flashing. The most eye-catching thing was the sword light that was everywhere. Every single one of them was breathtaking. After which, they saw numerous shallow scratches appearing on the stage. The scratches were incomparably sharp. With a glance, even one's mind would be pierced through. Judging from the current situation, Gao Feng and Yi Chen's power were almost the same. One had learned the entry-level sword intent, while the other had unparalleled sword art skills. His sword aura was horrifying. On the huge battling platform, the long sword in Gao Feng's hand kept moving. The sword light was extremely sharp, and every time he waved it out, it would be extremely threatening. Sometimes, when his Jin Qi was extremely powerful, before the tip of the sword even reached its target, there would already be burning sparks shooting out between the two, which was quite shocking. Compared to Gao Feng's unpredictable sword light, Yi Chen was like an enhanced version of his opponent. His Star Scar sword was unrestrained and untraceable. Every time he attacked, it was flawless, which was out of everyone's expectation. It made Gao Feng unable to gain the upper hand even with his sword intent. Of course, Yi Chen did not dare to be careless. Without using his sword intent, he would still have to use the poetic perspective of his sky-shattering clouds. He did not plan to use the poetic perspective of his lone peak kill yet. It was not because the poetic perspective of the lone peak kill was not as powerful as the sky-shattering clouds. In fact, once the poetic perspective of the lone peak kill was completed, it would be even more powerful than the sky-shattering clouds. However, without the help of the sword intent, the poetic perspective of the lone peak kill would not be able to reach its peak. The poetic perspective of the lone peak 13 swords was the origin of Yi Chen's sword intent. After it had been completely combined, the poetic perspective of the lone peak kill would also be closely related to the sword intent. If he did not have the sword intent, Yi Chen would not be able to completely combine the lone peak 13 swords and create his most powerful sword movement, the completed lone peak kill. As for the sky-shattering clouds, it would also need the sword intent to reach its peak. However, it was less dependent on the sword intent than the lone peak kill. Plus, the sky-shattering clouds was a frontal attack, while the lone peak kill was different. The poetic perspective of the lone peak kill was the essence of the lone peak kill. Without the poetic perspective of the lone peak kill, the power of the lone peak kill would drop by at least one level. On the stage, human figures flashed everywhere. The sword light flew everywhere. Beams of sword chi occasionally leaked out from the affected area, creating ripples on the dark blue light wall. How is this possible? I am older than him, and I have also learned the sword intent. How could I not have the upper hand at all? Just how powerful is his sword art? The long sword in his hand was waved out like lightning. Gao Feng was getting more and more shocked. Towards the end, he had already been convinced by Yi Chen's sword art. As the battle entered the most intense stage, Gao Feng's face looked extremely serious. His eyes had almost stopped blinking. Together with his mental power, he watched every single movement of Yi Chen, hoping to find a tiny flaw. As long as there was a tiny flaw, he would be able to fight back aggressively. After a while, Gao Feng finally gave up. Yi Chen did not have a single flaw. At least for him, Yi Chen was flawless. Even if there was a flaw, that kind of weird flaw could have been purposely made by his opponent to disrupt his rhythm. Taking a step back, Gao Feng held his sword with both of his hands and threw out a sword attack. Ghost Wind. Since there is no flaw, then I will create one myself. Gao Feng had used all of his power for this sword attack. His sword intent had been completely condensed into the sword wind. A ghostly cry was heard. That horrifying sword wind turned into sword chi from time to time, then disappeared from time to time. The sword intent is not bad, but the poetic perspective of the sword art is not that high. The reason why Yi Chen was able to fight on par with his opponent without using his sword intent was not only because of his powerful sword techniques and sword aura, but also because of his powerful poetic perspective. With the two combined, even Gao Feng, who had learned the entry-level sword intent, could not force him to use his sword intent. As Gao Feng took a step back, Yi Chen also took a step back. He held up his star scar sword with both of his hands and threw it down vertically with an aura of thunder and lightning. Sky-shattering clouds. Swoosh, swoosh, there was a light sparkle in the air. Gao Feng's sword wind had been shattered immediately, splashing everywhere like water. Meanwhile, Yi Chen's attack had disappeared as well. Gao Feng's expression changed suddenly as his eyes looked determined. I was planning to save this attack for the last moment. But now, you have what it takes for me to use it. His entry-level sword intent spread out, surrounding Gao Feng. He held the sword handle tightly with his right hand, while his left hand was on the end of the handle. In the next second, an extremely sharp sword aura exploded. Together with his slim body, his whole body looked like a great sword that was about to be taken out of its scabbard. Hee, this Gao Feng is not bad. I did not expect that he would have an even more powerful ace attack. Yi Chen is going to lose. Tang Xiaoshan crossed his arms in front of his chest, a smile appearing on his face. Facing Gao Feng, who had an extremely sharp aura, Yi Chen shook his head, sword intent. I know it too. I was planning to fight more. As for Gao Feng's sword art skills, Yi Chen was a bit impressed. It was just like how Wei Renjie felt about Lynch. Otherwise, there would be no need for him to waste so much time. He could have taken care of his opponent as soon as he got on the stage. With his power, it was not impossible. What? He has also learned the sword intent? The judge of the third group was shocked. A horrifying sharp intent burst out, and Yi Chen's aura was completely different from before. His blue robe danced in the air, and an invisible sword aura that had been infused with sword intent had pierced through Gao Feng's sword aura without any mercy. Gao Feng's sword aura, which had been rising up, seemed like a child's joke under this attack. It was like a balloon that had been deflated, and it started to deflate. Gao Feng was terrified. Is this his real power? Only Gao Feng himself knew how powerful the ace attack that he had prepared so carefully was. As long as he threw out this sword attack, even those who were slightly more powerful than him would have a hard time. However, he had not expected that Yi Qin had not only learned the sword intent, but also used it to a higher level than him. A sword light flashed across in the air. Gao Feng did not even have the chance to attack. His Jinqi layer had been shattered, and he was thrown into the dark blue light wall. Chapter 253. One sword attack. Gao Feng had lost. Everyone who was watching the battle was shocked. The whole place was dead silent. Before this, no one would have thought that Yi Qin had hidden his sword intent, which was the pride of a sword artist. He had only used his sword art to compete on the stage and beat all the top young warriors, winning 11 battles in a row. What was even more unexpected was that once Yi Qin had released his sword intent, Gao Feng did not even have the chance to attack. He had lost right away, and in such a straightforward manner. If Gao Feng were only a normal young warrior, people would not be so shocked. But in the first stage of the competition, he had beaten Teng Imo, who was ranked 19 in the last Hidden Dragon rank. And just like Yi Qin, he had won all the battles. Therefore, no matter how you looked at it, Gao Feng was not a normal warrior. He was definitely one of the top warriors among the young generation. However, a powerful warrior like him could not even handle one attack from Yi Qin. The huge contrast had shocked a lot of people. Amateurs would just watch for fun, but the experts would see for themselves. Most of the clasping Yuan Realm warriors only knew that Yi Qin had the sword intent, but they did not know what had happened in that second. However, the powerful clasping Yuan Realm warriors and astral reaching realm warriors had seen some of the details. For example, Yi Qin's sword intent flashed once and then disappeared, and it was hard to tell exactly what kind of realm he had reached. Also, right now, they could finally feel how fast Yi Qin's sword was. It had already surpassed the reaction speed of warriors at the same cultivation level. Most importantly, the second he threw out his sword, Yi Qin had shown the elegance of a sword artist. Not only did his sword art move as he wished, but it was also very fast. So impressive. Is this the power of the fifth in the top 10 new stars? Why do I feel like he could be the second? Some of the warriors who were watching the battle could not help but say. Someone next to him said, I have the same feeling. Gao Feng is the 9th in the top 10 new stars after all. But he still could not handle one serious sword attack from Yi Qin. It is not certain whether he is serious or not. Haven't you noticed? Until now, has Yi Qin tried his best? Only Gao Feng was able to force out his sword intent. This year's Hidden Dragon rank competitions are indeed full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Before, there were top young warriors like Xikong Sheng, and now, there are the top 10 new stars. All of them are hiding their powers. Before the most crucial moment, no one would know what kind of realm they have reached. Now that's hot-blooded. What's the point of a match that can be seen through at a glance? Ha, this is really exciting. I really want to see who among the younger generation can laugh until the end, and who can be ranked in the top 10. There were way too many people who were paying attention to this battle, since there were only 6 groups left. It was obvious which group would be more interesting to watch. The battle between Yi Qin and Gao Feng was very exciting. In the beginning, it was clear that they were evenly matched, but in the end, the situation changed drastically. First, Gao Feng was forced to use his ace attack, and his momentum increased drastically. It seemed like he was going to win, but who would have thought that Yi Qin would have even more attacks, which exposed the fact that he had comprehended the sword intent and killed Gao Feng with one sword attack, showing off the power of a sword artist. Such an exciting battle had made people's blood boil. Their faces turned red, and they could not help but want to scream out loud. The Group 12 judge froze for a while before he said, a real sword artist needs both a powerful attacking power and the power to kill with one attack. This kid has both, which is very rare. The Group 3 judge nodded. It is easy to become a warrior, but it is hard to become a sword artist. Most people only have the talent to be a sword artist, but not the qualities that a sword artist should have. As astral reaching realm warriors, the two had seen a lot of powerful sword artists. They knew how hard it was to deal with a sword artist, since they did not seem to have too big of a weakness, because they were experts in finding weaknesses. That sword attack of Yi Qin seemed to be very fast and casual, but it had actually landed on Gao Feng's weakest spot, which gave Gao Feng no chance to fight back at all. A light flashed through the head disciple of the Heartless Martial School, Li Daoxian. Yi Qin, who had learned the sword intent, had piqued his interest. As for how long this interest could last, it would depend on how powerful Yi Qin really was. If it was only this much, then it would only take 3 sword attacks to finish him off. Xikong Sheng and the other top young warriors did not have any expression on their faces. The power that Yi Qin had shown so far was nothing special to them. Reaching their level, the gap between them was huge. If one's power could not be ranked in the top 5 or top 10, then he would not even be worth their attention. There are too many people who have not shown their real power yet. He is only a clown. The head disciple of the Sky Fall Martial School, Lin Yun, sneered. The head disciple of the Sky Demon Martial School, Mo Yen, used his Sky Demon eyes. A dark red light flashed through his eyes as he said lightly, he will not be in the top 10. Murong Qingcheng frowned slightly. This head disciple of hers looked very calm and collected on the surface, but he was actually very prideful. As one of the top 2 martial arts of the Sky Flying Demon Martial School, the Sky Demon art was indeed very powerful. The Sky Demon eyes that came with it could see through a person's aura. However, martial arts were not omnipotent. Moreover, his Sky Demon art was only at the 10th realm, so how could he see through a person's power? On the battling platform, putting his Star Scar sword back into its scabbard, Yi Qin said, "Thank you," before flying off the platform. Gao Feng covered his chest with his left hand, but he was not hurt at all. He knew that Yi Qin had held back. Yi Qin's control of his power was just like his sword art, which had already reached the realm of being able to do whatever he wanted. It was not a shame to lose to him. Plus, he had learned something from this battle. Getting off the platform, Gao Feng sent a Zhenqi message to his sister disciple, "Sorry. I have lost. It's okay. He is just too powerful. I just want to watch your battle. I don't care about anything else." You are right. He is indeed too powerful. I think his power is even more powerful than what everyone thinks. Gao Feng said in shock. Unfortunately, besides his sister disciple, no one else heard what he said. Pap! The iron ball in his hand had been crushed. Tang Xiaoshan's face froze. He had just said that Yi Qin was going to lose, but the result was completely different from what he had expected. He had been humiliated. His power is not bad. It seems like I have underestimated him. Tang Xiaoshan twitched the corner of his mouth. The battle continued. The next contestant was the 3rd disciple of the Sky Demon Martial School, Wu Yangyu. His opponent was the young warrior who had made it to the next round with all his wins. The two had exchanged 3 rounds of attacks. Wu Yangyu won. The Sky Demon Martial School is slightly more powerful in terms of the number of top disciples. In addition to the top 3 disciples, there are also 3 disciples who have made it to the 2nd stage of the knockout competition, adding up to 6 disciples. As for the other 6th grade sects, the most disciples who have made it to the 2nd stage of the knockout competition are no more than 5, and at least 3. Of course, the Sky Demon Martial School has the advantage in terms of quantity. But in terms of quality, no one can compete with the Floating Mountain Martial School. There is no other way. The Floating Mountain Martial School has Xikong Sheng. Besides the Fire Spirit Prince, no one else would be able to compete with him. Not necessarily. That Lin Yun's chi is not weaker than the Fire Spirit Prince's. In some aspects, he is even more powerful. The fight for the first place should be between the three of them. Not necessarily. Tuabaku should be counted in. The last hidden dragon rank 9 young warrior had been blown away by him with only one punch. Is this kind of power not enough to compete for the top 3?